love to welcome Brad Parkell.
Thank you. Just a quick question. I want to see how many people here are marketing or have a marketing background. So mostly. When I got started in using Tableau about 2 years ago, I attended our Madison Tableau users group, and I felt really out of place thinking that maybe I was misplaced in using the product, and they did kind of the same thing. It's like, how many people are marketing? A third of the room rose their hands. How many are business analysts, and then how many are IT? And really third was the mix, and so it's always an interesting crowd. We are all on the same team here and doing the same types of things, but we come from different backgrounds. So that was pretty cool to see. So I'm here to talk about how we had some issues where a company, and I was having trouble with getting my data to line up to go into Tableau. And I don't know if you guys have this problem. I was able to create some really cool visualizations coming out of the data set that Tableau provides, but it was a real struggle when I started to try to plug my own data into that mix. And so that really started my journey to try to understand how to clean up data in front of or upstream of going into Tableau. So my name is Brad Parkell, and I'm a director of marketing at Singlewire Software. And Singlewire is based in Madison, Wisconsin. We are an emergency notification company. We develop software for emergency notification, a tool called Informacast. And we got our start about 15 to 20 years ago, around the time of 9/11. We had software that was written and in the wings, and then 9/11 happened. And the U.S. Department of Commerce had just installed Cisco phones in their building and needed a way to evacuate people in 15 minutes. If you remember, that was kind of the push at the time, is to get people out of buildings. And so they turned to us to say, is there any way we can turn Cisco phones into an overhead paging system or into a notification system? And we're like, yeah, we've got that. So we did some tests, did proof of concept, and Department of Commerce was our first customer, and they're still a customer of ours today, which we're happy to say. Our software delivers disruptive audio and text to people in an organization. And so if you think about your own organization, we're looking to hit as many communication channels as possible to let you know if there's an event in progress. And so we send notification to computer desktops, we send it to IP phones, we send it to overhead paging systems. Since we're on the network, we can do things like turn lights on and off, have elevators go up and down. We can tap into a number of different systems. And we also reach people who are mobile on their cell phones. So the idea is, if there's an event, we can reach you if you're driving on your way to work, or if you're sitting at your desk, or if you are walking around the parking lot or going to the water cooler. We're going to reach you wherever you're at. And so over that time, we've grown to be a company that is, we have about 5,000 customers around the globe that use our software in a wide range of different uses. Everything from ringing school bells and doing school lockdowns, to doing school announcements in K-12, to hospitals doing the code calls, to manufacturing, letting people know on the floor of a manufacturing company, if there's an event in progress, turning lights on, shutting down production lines, that sort of thing, if there's an event. So I've been with Singlewire since we started about 10 years ago. We were a company of about 24 people, and we've grown in that time to a staff of now just over 100. We're a B2B company, which I'm sure there's a few of you out there like that, and so our challenge is to reach customers, other organizations, and we have a partner channel that we sell through, and so we're also engaging with our customers through our channel resellers. So formatting data for me was really a challenge that came into play a couple years ago. In our company, since we're growing so fast, my role has had to change quite a bit. I come from the background of video production and content creation, and so I had a lot of Word docs and video files on my laptop, and we were at a point where we just had a lot of data challenges, and so I took this on as a more central part of my job. And so I like to say I turned in my Word documents for Excel sheets, and luckily that worked out okay. And I've really enjoyed it. So we had an issue of needing to clean up data. And going back to the start of my talk, Tableau was just one symptom for me. It's like we needed to clean up data, we needed to bring it into Tableau, but we needed to use data in a lot of different places for email marketing or for just understanding of reaching different audiences. And so cleaning up data became a really big part of the challenge. So I got my start in Excel and quickly realized that I couldn't do a lot of the things that I really needed to do with just that tool. And so about a year and a half ago, I found Trifacta on the web and downloaded their sample tool and used that to understand what it was all about. And the advantages that it gave me were that I could do the same things I was doing in Excel, but I was able to see a record of all the steps that I was creating and be able to go back into those steps, edit them, reorder them, was a huge benefit. It gave me a new visibility to the work I was doing. Plus I could copy and save it so that I could come back to it at another time and understand a process that I had done maybe 2 or 3 weeks before. So it really changed the way that we process or started processing data. And of course, the final step with that is then to take the data and bring it into Tableau to show the work that's being done. So I'm going to talk about 2 use cases today. This is the first one, lead processing. So if you're in marketing, I'm sure you're either doing that or someone on your staff is like, oh yeah, we got another lead list. And so this is where we got our first significant win, and it really showed me the power of what we were doing with data and how we could really expand that into a lot of different places. So I'm going to start with my last slide in the section first. And so with our lead data, once we figured out how to process the data using Trifacta and an import tool for Salesforce, I was able to save the equivalent of 1/4, that's 1 business quarter of my time processing just leads. We had the challenge of attending a lot of shows. Our company was growing very quickly, and so we went from attending maybe 1 or 2 shows a year to suddenly attending 100. And a lot of them are this size or bigger. And so with each of those events, we come away with a different looking CSV file for every event. So imagine, some are going to give you first name and last name all in the same column. States spelled out in some cases, or just the 2-letter code. And to get this data cleaned up in a meaningful way and a quick way to get into Salesforce was a real challenge for us. And so I just was finding myself just doing lead data cleanup as my full-time job. So the goal with those of you who aren't marketing for shows like this is to understand 3 different types of people that we're talking to in our booth. And we're either talking to someone that we're currently doing business with, and that's in our CRM. And those people are easy to identify because their email will match up to our Salesforce database. The second group of people are going to be those who are with companies we're doing business with, but they're new to us. They're brand new people. And in those cases, we can match on their email domain and find them. And then the third, of course, is someone we've never seen or met before. Those are our net new leads. And so the challenge, if there is someone we've talked to or someone new from a company we're doing business with, we want that data that's in Salesforce, that company name, to land on our sheet, so then we bring it into Salesforce, it's going to land in the right place and with the right company. So I'm going to just give a brief demo. This is a video to have you kind of look over my shoulder of how I process data with Trifacta. And I thought I'd go into the weeds here just to kind of show how this works. We have a data file that we bring in, that's just a CSV file, and we bring it into something called a flow. And it looks very similar to what you'd expect in Excel. except along the top there are these data value bars that show what data is in each one of those columns. And I just used about 12 rows of data here as an example, but you can imagine if there's 200, it's very easy to go below the fold and not understand if maybe there's a blank row or something that's out of place. So some of the things we're always looking for is to standardize the name, first letter capitalized. And so Trifacta is going to give us this data and allow us to make changes, but preview it before we execute a command to make it happen. A lot of times data will come in with weird little artifacts like quotation marks. Find and replace is something that you can do in Excel. You can do it in Trifacta by simply painting over the articles or the elements that are weird artifacts, and then have that be removed across the entire document. Simply adding here, clicking to add, is then going to start building our recipe list that you're seeing here on the side. We can look in to see if there's missing data in the rows below and what's mismatched by just simply rolling over some of those highlighted areas. And then we can go into this data and make the changes to clean it up. So here's the case with the states, getting some that are formatted in weird ways, and a lot of times this is just the user when they're filling out their application for the event, just typing in their in some cases their states. So with Trifacta here we can go through and say, okay, give us all the data that's in this column, and then we can go back into it and just format it to what we want it to be. In this case, we want to just change the states to the common 2-letter code. We can put this in place, we hit to accept, and it brings these changes forward. So again, where there's values where we're missing, we can fill these in. If we're at an event, like for us, we're based out of Madison, and so if we're at an event in Wisconsin, we will sometimes know if there's no data. Chances are there may be from a state of Wisconsin or Illinois, and so we can just go in and fill in some of the missing data if we need to. So to do a check on email domains, what we do is just simply make a copy of a column of the email column, and then with Trifacta here, we're able to just highlight or paint over the @ symbol of the email address and say, okay, we want to split on that point in that column. And so all the prefix for the email ends in the first column, all the domain information ends up in the second column. It gives us a preview, and then we can say, okay, yes, we want to accept that. We don't have any need a lot of times for the prefix, so we delete that, but now we have our domain, which can be our unique identifier that we can take forward and use in a lot of different places. So you're seeing here along the side, we're building our recipe list, and we can go into any of these items to edit them. We can move them up and down. We can disable them to see how that affects how the data flows through this process. And this is significant because we can copy these and add them to different flows to work on in different places. Or we can bring other people into this process and have them look at this and work with the data as well. So what we do on our next step here is to do a join. Previously, I built a data set with all of our data out of Salesforce, all of our company names, and we just got a domain name from each company so that we can do a match. And so with Trifacta here, we can do a join and identify any matches that we have with email domain. So I think pretty typical here, you do a left join, inner join, right join. In this case, we want to do a left. And for our unique identifier, we're going to use that domain name that we were using from our email address, from our source, and then from our data set that we had in here previously with our account names. Do a match on domains, and it's going to ask, okay, once we have this mix, how do you want the document to show up afterwards? How many, what rows do you want to include in your work moving forward? And so we can go through here and select which items we want from our original document. and then which ones that we want to include from our appended document. So in this case, we want to get rid of an extra column of domains, but we want our account name to see where there's a match. Again, here's our preview. And as we scroll along, we're going to see the green column that's going to show us where our domain match or our account name matches are occurring. So we click to accept. And so we've got two matches in this case with company names. So that's significant for us. That's a start. We can go through then on this account name column and say, let's look at all of the accounts where there are no values. We want to bring all the data that's in that company column over to the account name column. So wherever there's a blank, we want to append that. So we do that in a real simple step. It's going to give us a preview. And now we're at a final place. We have account names that include the name of the company that's from our Salesforce CRM, and then we have the names that were provided from the account. Last step here is how do you want to export it? We typically come out as a CSV, then that we take forward, we inspect just to make sure that we have all the data lined up, that our account managers are the right person for the right territory, just a final inspection before we bring that up then into Salesforce. So this is a very abbreviated version of the process that I was doing, but with Trifacta, you can see how we're able to move through that a lot quicker and have these scripts already written so that we can just kind of snap in a CSV from a new show, maybe make a few tweaks depending on what columns were provided, and we're off and running. So a huge win for us, and really for me making the argument that we should buy the software, it really made the case. So second use case I'm going to talk about today is account-based marketing. Anyone here doing that today or making that effort? And account-based marketing can mean a lot of different things. And so at the core of our challenge, I'll kind of talk about that in a sec. Here's again the last slide that I'm going to come back to at the end, but this is our Tableau visualization to show the kind of the global view of the entire effort around our ABM. And this is something that our executive team can look at and understand, okay, here's the inputs that are going in, and then here are the results here at the end of the process. So at Singlewire, we define account-based marketing as any organization, any company that we're not doing business with today. We're trying to understand who out there is maybe looking for emergency notification software, and then try to engage with them. And from a marketing standpoint, that's really, it feels like an impossible point to start from. You don't have any data to work off of. So we took a step back and said, you know, where can we find intent or people may be showing intent? And we looked to our website as a starting point. We're HubSpot users, and so there's a report in HubSpot that you can get showing the companies that are visiting your website on any given day, and it creates a log of those. Now HubSpot will give you the IP address, but then also does a lookup, like Google Analytics and some other services, to give you the name of the company. And it also appends some other interesting data like number of employees, state where the headquarters is located at. And so we can start to then see a pretty good picture of companies in this data set. But again, the problem is which one of those are our customers, which ones are our partners that we're doing business with, our channel partners, and which ones are net new. And so with this, it's really a challenge to try to weed through that. We've got over 30,000 rows of data. How do we net out those prospects from that list? And so we started with this, and we turned to Trifacta as a way to try to filter that out and make something work with it. So with Trifacta, we looked at the domain name of the companies, and we cleaned it up. And similar to what we were doing with lead gen, we did a lookup to remove all the existing contacts and all the existing companies that we're currently dealing with in Salesforce to just net out our prospects. And then we went through with that list and said, okay, let's apply some rules to this and some filters to really net out who is actively looking at our website and would be a good candidate to go after. So we're able to look at and say, we want to see any company where there are more than 25 page views on our website to show some level of interest. We wrote a rule where we want to see at least 3 different visitors showing up from that organization. We want to look at number of employees, so we're going to go after larger organizations, 500 employees or more, just so that it's worth the investment in our time. And since this data is going back in time with HubSpot, we've got data going back maybe 5 years. And so we take a look at last time that an organization was on the site. We say, okay, how many days was that from today? And we want to just look at active companies, then active prospects that have been on the site within the last 120 days. And that would probably be pretty valid. We figured if there's one person that comes to our site on January 1st, likes what they see, they may pass the URL to other people in the organization and they come in, and it might take 3 weeks or 3 months to get to that point. At the end, we come away with just a handful of companies each week, anywhere from 3 companies to, I think one time I saw like 12.5 in there. And this is going to be new each week because we're constantly doing this lookup of 120 days. We're filtering out anyone that we're processing previously, so there's always kind of this cadence of new companies that we're identifying that are new to us. And so we take this and we've got just the company name and the domain name, and then we start doing marketing with it. So a person on our team does a lookup in Zoom Info. We look for the contact names of the people we typically talk to on a sales call. For us doing emergency notification, think of your own organization. It's going to be someone in facilities that may deal with overhead paging systems. It's going to be a safety or security manager who is in charge of protocols and pushing buttons to let people know. Sometimes it's HR, sometimes it's an operations person. And so this is a manual lookup process, but it's manageable. You know, it's 4 companies, a dozen companies, we can knock this out in maybe 30 minutes or an hour. So we bring these people into our CRM, and then we just start doing some email marketing to them to try to engage with them. And also put some calls into them to see if there's any level of interest that we can gauge from them. And the understanding is that we may not get any activity right away, but at least we're trying to engage. And if people do come back to us, we kind of have a marker in place to recognize when we do see some activity. So in Salesforce, we put in a checkbox and a date so that we can identify an account that's been part of this account-based marketing effort, and we put in a date of when we're starting this. And these accounts should be new for the most part because we've previously filtered, but if you all have sales teams, there sometimes they can maybe name things differently, or a company name will change and a URL will change. And so there are occasionally times when maybe there is a previous record. So if a company does engage with us and there's an opportunity just through the organic process of our sales team, we're going to start to see it as an opportunity and then later as an order in Salesforce. So what we do is we compare dates just as a final check. Is this opportunity coming in after when we started our ABM campaign? And if that's the case, then we want to take that data and move it forward and build reports on it to show that this is part of our ABM effort. So again, back to our final slide. We have a couple different sources that we do this with. HubSpot is essentially one input channel, and we're developing a couple others just because we can replicate this process across different sources. And it's easy to do. It usually is me sitting down with my VP and saying, what are these business rules that you want to put in place? We can go through and make those edits in Trifacta and have the script set. And then each week we simply add a new CSV file, and it will run and produce a script. So we've got opportunities here below, and this is the top here the top two boxes are CSV files, just raw data files that we were working with. But as we move down, we've got data coming in from Salesforce. And of course, since you have Tableau and you can make a map, and we've got address information, we always try to make a map. Just to show kind of the size of the deal, where it's at. Our sales team is set by geography, and so this gives our executive team the ability to understand what territories these are really active in. So it's even easier when you think about operationalizing this. I simply download a file off of HubSpot and our other sources and load it to our AWS bucket where we have Trifacta installed. And Trifacta will have some parameters that we can put in place where we can look at the date of the report, and it's just going to recognize, okay, what's the most recent date of the report that's come in within the last 6 days. Use that as the source. And so there's really no hands-on process for me. It's like, again, just drag and drop, hit to run the report, and then 5 minutes later we have our data. So Gamechangers for us, filtering out existing customers to identify net new companies, applying business rules to give us high-value prospects, operationalizing this process to make it very easy for us to do each week. I always worry about if I go on vacation for 2 weeks, am I going to remember all the steps that I need to take to kind of make something happen? This really simplifies that. And in 10 minutes to an hour, we have our process complete. So this is working. We're adding a ton of new opportunities to our sales pipeline. It's a significant win for us, and our sales cycle is very prolonged. Anywhere, sometimes it may be 3 weeks, but oftentimes it's 9 months to a year to even a year and a year plus. But we're starting to see activity come through, which is showing the value to it. So running a little bit short on time, but I just want to show a couple other visualizations that we're building. And again, this is stuff that we will bring out of our different data sources. I've just, as a habit, run it in through Trifacta to clean up dates, clean up the data, and in a lot of cases, appending the data. Again, upstream of Tableau. And I know that there are tools that Tableau is introducing to let you do that, but I'm very often using the data in other places, and so I like to work outside of that as a starting point. So our live chat data, number of live chats on the top, the gray bar behind is showing how many agents, if they are spending time online, just to understand if there's a drop-off in coverage. And then we're showing year-over-year data below that to understand if we're trending in the right direction or if there's an issue. Some sales data here, looking at website. Again, this is data coming out of Google Analytics. But we're overlaying some of our HubSpot data down here in the corner. We've got a demo page on our website, and so we want to get an idea how many people are coming to that page to visit it, and then how many people are filling out the form below. So those are kind of two different sources. In Trifacta, we're bringing that together and bringing the dates and lining up the dates so that we can get one true look and overlay with that data. And we're looking to also include the Wistia video data as well, so we can get an understanding of how many people are consuming the video data. Okay, this is kind of the summary slide. I want to leave just a minute or two for any questions that you guys might have. Hopefully you found this valuable. Any questions?